G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR. Hope you're all going well. I tell you what, very, very excited today. We are kicking off our team review videos. As you can see, I'll have my good man Spills with me today. Mate, how have you been? What have you been doing the last few months?
Oh, fuck all, mate. Just hanging around for SuperCoach. Look, thanks for having me on. I've been bloody looking forward to this for ages. I mean, I haven't spoken to you properly in about 6 months or so. I don't know what's been happening with some technical problems with our phones. But, mate, it's great to be back on the channel. And more importantly, it's good to be back at your joint talking all things SuperCoach.
Mate, yeah, if you haven't noticed, we are both actually in the same room at the moment. We're trialing out a different streaming service, trying to get a little bit more professional around here. But, look, we've got plenty of time to talk nonsense, mate. Let's get straight into this because today we are doing the North Melbourne team preview. I didn't realise that North was going to be so relevant until I actually started going down the list of players. And we do have a very special guest on today, finished around the top 500 last year. So certainly knows his stuff. Certainly knows his stuff, this man. We have the one and only Big J from the Centre Bounce. So let's welcome you on. We'll add him to the stream. Big J, how have you been, mate? Thank you for joining us, legends. What's cracking, mate?
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me on. Been doing really well. Kind of SuperCoach has just started back up. Team Picker came out a couple of days ago. So, yeah, kind of cracking into that a little bit and excited to talk SuperCoach today. So
unreal, isn't it? I'll tell you what, talk about excitement levels for the Team Picker opening. I don't know what you like, Spills, but I was just like a dog to a bone. Just can you describe the excitement for the SuperCoach and others when the Team Picker opens? It's
quickest $20 ever spent.
Isn't that right? And worth every penny as well. Yeah. But look, Big J, we obviously got you on because you are the #1 North Melbourne man around here. We already talked about the fact that you're ranked close to the top 500 last year. So we'd love to get a few of your insights, dig right into your brain today. And I said to Spills before, I didn't realise how relevant North Melbourne was actually going to be in SuperCoach this year. So look, mate, let's get straight into it. We might start with the rookies. Spills, any rookies that you're interested in when it comes to North this year, mate? Or
there's quite a fair few, but I think the main one that I'm really interested in is Will Phillips. So obviously, I'm pretty sure he was a top 3 pick in a draft a couple of years ago over COVID season, but hasn't really been able to get on the park. But is this his year, Jez? What's going to happen with this guy? Because at the moment, he is in my team, sitting quite comfortably at M6 or 7. But yeah, I'm really bullish on this bloke, DR, and I bet you are too, Jez.
Yeah, he's come into the preseason in ripping form. Kind of when everyone took time off in September, he was just kind of coming off glandular fever. So that's really what hurt him in 2020, why he really didn't play. Ended up having basically 2 goes of glandular fever back-to-back, which really kind of hampered anything. Did a little bit of VFL, but never made it back into the senior side. So he kind of took it on himself. Everyone else was having fun in the off-season. He trained his butt off, has come into form looking ripper, put on a lot of muscle, and now, he is kind of trying to cement his spot in the best 22. So he's looking really good.
Is he best 22, Jez? Would you have him in the team?
I think I personally would have him in the best 22. I think there's a spot for him. I think Clarko coming in now kind of likes his type of player, really silky skills, isn't selfish with the ball, will set people up as much as kick goals. And he's a bit of a clearance machine as well. So when he gets the ball near the contest, he gets rid of it pretty quick.
What position will he be playing predominantly? Will they have him on a wing, half forward, or will he get a few CBAs?
I think he's going to be getting quite a few CBAs, or at least in the mix with that. I think North Melbourne this year under Clarko, there's going to be a few players who will rotate a little bit between the midfield and the forward line, just kind of the setup that it is. Other sides have, pure mids, that kind of thing. Whereas a lot of North players, maybe due to their age as well, but also trying to keep players on the field instead of having to go back to bench rotation to kind of rest. That happens with a lot of pure midfielders, that kind of thing. Predominantly mid, maybe rest a little bit in that half forward so he can still be involved kind of position.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, bloody great insights, mate. I've currently got him in my side as well. When I uploaded my first video, I think I might have actually skipped him, but when taking a closer look, he's one name that did stand out, particularly as you mentioned, Spills, the fact that he was one of those top draft picks as well. and did have some good pedigree. Another bloke, obviously, there was 2 high draft picks that you managed to bring in this year, Big J. The first bloke I'd like you to touch on, if possible, is Mr. Wardlaw. So a bigger body type inside midfielder. Will he have an impact this year? Do you expect him to play straight away, get some midfield minutes? How keen are you on Wardlaw as a selection at a price of $193,800?
Unfortunately, I don't think Wardlaw is going to start in the best 22. Looking at him in the preseason now, I have been down to watch them a few times, and then watch reports as well from other people there. He seems to be not so much in the rehab group, but still like running laps, not being so involved in the drills, like some of the other first-year players are. He was coming off hamstrings and things like that in his under-18s year. That affected him a little bit. I think he didn't even go into the combine this year because of that as well. So I have a feeling they're going to take it slow with him through the VFL, and then maybe second half of the year get some AFL games if there's an opportunity for him. The good thing about North Melbourne is that, we might not have been the most competitive team in the last few years, but there's not pressure for a lot of the younger kids to automatically play straight away, even if they were like a super top, first round pick, that kind of thing. So we have the availability to, weed them through the VFL, get them fit, and then start them off that way.
That's good to know, because I assume that a lot of people would look at a team like North Melbourne, look at a rookie, and just expect they're going to get a chance. They're going to get a chance, not towards the bottom. But you're saying that's not necessarily the case, even with some of these high-priced rookies like Wardlaw. Well, the other one we need to talk about as well on the forward line is Sheasel. Is he going to be relevant? Do you think he's in a bit of a different position to someone like a Wardlaw, could make an impact early? Is he worth paying up for, or someone that maybe we should just skip for now?
I guess how many forwards, before I kind of say what I think, how many forwards would you normally pick in SuperCoach? Guys who predominantly, first-year rookies who are playing forward. Is that a position that you guys normally pick for? Yeah.
I got Toby McLean, I think, at F5, so I'm not mucking around the forward line this year. So, rookie-wise, I can't really justify paying $198K for Sheasel. But is he as good as they say, mate? Is he the next Toby Green?
I think he's phenomenal. I think he's going to be playing. What I was kind of trying to allude to was normally we try and fit a lot of midfielders in the team because they get a lot of the ball, whereas forwards are generally reliant on them getting the possession up forward and kicking a goal to score a lot. So I just don't think Sheasel's going to be fantastic, and yes, he's going to impact. But I just don't know at that price if it's really viable to bring him in. I think he'll be in the best 22. A lot of people have him in their best 22 in the forward line or in the, interchange rotations, but he's very expensive for the price.
Oh, definitely overs for me. I'm not paying up for that.
No, me neither.
I think the issue this year is he's competing for spots in their side with your Ben Kings, Toby McLeans, Oscar Allens as well. So I've got a lot of options around that price, don't we? And probably players that we've seen with a few more runs on the board. Not a heap of runs on the board, but certainly a few more than possibly an unproven Sheasel at AFL level. The other bloke, and I'm not sure if it's as similar to a Sheasel or a little bit different due to his lower price, is Charlie Comben. I know that lots of us have used him as a loophole over the last couple of years. Had that ruck forward status. I believe he's only eligible as a forward this year. But at his price at around $123K, is he worth a bench spot just for now anyway, until we get some more preseason news about some of the other rookies that are available?
It's funny because I look at, like you're saying, the last couple of years where he was kind of the R3 loophole for a lot of teams, right? And, fairly highly picked. I think this year he's going to be highly picked in the forward line just for him actually playing at that price. Kid's finally got his body right, got over all of his injuries and all his problems. And North want him as that second forward in the forward line to back up Larky, predominantly to play as the deep forward because Larky's a lot more mobile and runs around the field a lot more. So Comben will be that, gets the ball in the deep forward line, kicks a goal type player. I guess maybe similar to how a Kennedy was at West Coast for a while. Kind of that like deep threat, marking, can jump on people's heads and then just get the ball and kick a goal. I think this is his year to really break out, and I have him in my team. If you watch a lot of the preseason footage, he's taken hangers. He's doing really well. I mean, it's still December, but there's definitely a spot for him there. We haven't drafted a key forward for the last 3 years because this kid's been coming through. And for him to finally have his body right, I think he's good to go. For 123K, you can always trade him out round 3 if something happens before the price increases. But I don't think you'll have to.
How about some ruck time? Will he look to play any type of a ruck relief role, do you think? Or do you think he's mainly going to be stationed down forward and there's another player that may be able to take up that relief role? You've got your Cherry and your Goldie. Do you see him purely as a forward this year, mate?
I think there's an opportunity potentially for him to do like a pinch hit in the ruck, but majority is just going to be that key forward. I know that we've got enough players to have a CCJ or a Cherry as that second ruck, maybe rotating off the bench so the forwards don't have to. I think that's probably what's going to end up happening.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. Now, that's all the rookies that we had that we thought may be relevant this year. Do you have a couple of others maybe up your sleeve that we haven't talked about yet that may actually be looking to get a game round 1 or early on the season?
Yeah. There's a couple of players in the back line that I think may have an opportunity. Just kind of depends if they can lock in a best 22 spot. 2 guys that did really well in 2022 who are looking to continue that form as well. And that's Jackson Archer at 214K. I think he's got the stride and the potential to do really well. Maybe not obviously as a keeper in that position, but should be able to make an easy 100 to 150K. I mean, 150K off his price is only like a 60 to a 65 average. So most players playing a full game of footy, if they're in the game, should be able to get that kind of score, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, there's another one we can certainly add to the list. And who's the other one that you were thinking of, mate, that maybe we might have missed?
The other player I'm looking at is Josh Goder as well. So playing off that wing halfback. I know we saw him once, I think it was last year, where he did really well in that game. Got a lot of nice kicks and did a lot of nice kicking and things like that through the halfback and the wing. It all just kind of depends on what Clarko wants. It's a little bit harder to determine best 22 at the moment with a new coach coming in. But if he's playing, I think he'll lock in a spot and he'll do really well for us as well. Like with Archer, doesn't need to be a keeper. But at this point in time with that price, we're just looking for some quick cash. And those guys are there for it as well.
Excellent, because I'm struggling with the back line at the moment. I'm actually looking for a fair bit of value. So if one of these blokes could get up, that would be a big advantage, Big J. All right, so let's get into some of the mid-prices now. The first bloke I want you to touch on for us, if possible, mate, is Mr. Darcy Tucker. Obviously come across from Fremantle at a decent price, 272,500. I'm also actually looking to a player review on him. One thing that I have noticed when looking through the data is the fact that he's played over 100 games now and only 4 times has he actually gone over the ton in SuperCoach, which surprised me. I thought that there might be around the 10+ mark. There's, I think, around 4 or 5 90s in there as well. So only 10 out of his 100+ games have resulted in 90+ scores in SuperCoach. I'm not sure if that's been due to role. I know he's had to deal with a little bit of injury lately, but how do you feel about him or as an acquisition for the Roos for a start? And will he be SuperCoach relevant this year? I know it's early stages, but what are you thinking about Mr. Darcy Tucker?
Our aim this year in the trade period was to really bring in some mature age players that had elite training standards. And that's kind of where Darcy Tucker, your Shields, those kind of players fit in. I think they'll be a great acquisition and help to bolster and develop the kids, even if they don't end up playing. Unfortunately, it's looking like Tucker might be a slow start to the season. So starting through the VFL, getting his body right, and then, pushing for an AFL spot. I don't think he's best 22 at the moment. When I went down to training last week, I heard him speaking to a couple of people saying, hey, this week, which would be this week, I'm actually able to start running on field. So he's kind of behind. He came into the club with those leg injuries that kind of hurt him at Freo, and that's partly probably why he got traded a little bit. So at the moment, he's not doing, drills. I don't think he's started proper running yet. So slow burn for him.
Excellent. So maybe one to maybe avoid for now. Track to see how his body's going. But that's great info, particularly given the fact you've been down there yourself at training with your eyes, Big J. That's fantastic, mate. Now, there's a bloke Spills that you may be possibly interested in starting. Don't know if he's currently in your version that you've got at the moment, but
no, not currently. We're not far off. Look, we're going to talk about North Melbourne mid prices, I'm picking this bloke over Darcy Tucker, Jez, and that's Taryn Thomas. So what can you tell me about the best Tasmanian at North Melbourne? Price at a fair and reasonable $295K. Not much more than Darcy Tucker, but in my opinion, definitely a far better talented player who didn't really have his best season in 2022, mate.
Yeah, well, if I say he's currently in my side at the moment, and I've been pushing for him to be picked by a lot of people, kind of tells you what I'm thinking at the moment with the selection. So
you got him?
Year, yeah, I've currently got him in my forward line at the moment.
There you go.
Similar to, I guess I'll start with similar to Jackson Archer and Goda, the philosophy with them about maybe they don't have to be keepers, but if they can make quick cash early, that's when you want to bring them in. That's someone who Taryn Thomas is for me at the moment. If he ends up being a keeper, then fantastic. But I definitely see potential there for him to score really well. Last year was kind of a bust, had a lot of family problems and things like that going on. It's a bit different for the Indigenous boys compared to everyone else. You know, they're very close with their families, and when things happen, it can really affect them that kind of way. Similar with Rioli and Tip and Woody and those kind of players, right? Where like that background stuff really affects their game and their personal life. And he also was out for a lot of the time as well. I don't know if you guys have seen the smother on when he went, dived over the ball and ended up breaking his ribs because he got kicked, in the chest. Yeah. But that really affected him as well for the rest of the year. That's 2022. You're looking at 2021. He had a fantastic last 8 or 9 games to the season. Mm-hmm. And people were talking about him last year coming in as potentially being that player who could be a keeper.
That's right. Yeah.
Is he,
wants to run.
Yeah. Is he going to benefit without Horn Francis in the team? Because clearly they're pretty good mates, I'm pretty sure. But what I noticed from both of them was they never really had the best attitudes come towards the club. They dropped their heads. It wasn't the best. It was a pretty dire season for North Melbourne, but there was a bit of glass half empty about him, and that's why I don't have Taryn Thomas in my team, mate, because he's got the talent, he's got the ceiling, but I'm just not really sure if did he check out? Did he check out last year, mate?
I think a lot of players checked out last year. As DR would kind of attest, you're a teacher, right, DR?
Yes, mate. Yes. 2 days officially to go. No more kids, but 2 more days, and then on holidays, mate. So, geez, the team pick is going to get a fair workout, Big J. I'll tell you what, mate.
Kind of, you'd attest as well. If you've got kids who don't like their teacher at school, who don't like the subjects, that kind of thing, who are doing really poorly, can't get involved, they kind of don't keep that attention, do they, in class?
Very true. That's a really good analogy, mate. I can definitely relate to exactly what you're saying there.
So I think a lot of players at North Melbourne, especially over last year, but the year previously, first year under Noble, obviously Reece Shaw before that, a lot of players had really checked out and their training standards had fallen off, games where they were getting smashed by 100 points in a row, that kind of thing. There was talk, hey, is the coach going to go? What's happening, or all these off-field problems, Horn Francis, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of players really checked out. And Thomas being younger as well, with all these off-season problems or off-field problems, kind of probably was in that same group. I don't think that's going to be a problem now under Clarko. And I've seen them at training, and they're really, really close. And they're almost like best friends on field. You'll see them laughing, mucking around. But when it's go time, they're serious. And that's kind of the attitude that he's got this year.
Look, plenty of players have checked out, mate, for North Melbourne, but there are 2 on this list that we got that I don't think have checked out, and he's one of them, and his name's Ben Cunnington, mate, and you might not like it, but he's not in my team at the moment, but DR, he's in yours. So what are your justifications for this one? Because I really don't mind the pick. I love him as a player, but I don't like that price. I was expecting a little bit less, but definitely not a bad selection. Run us through that one.
He's been in and he's been out. He's been in and he's been out. Originally, I thought that he was going to come at a cheaper price. I had him pegged in the 300s. When the team picker came out, I was going through everyone, made my first video. He wasn't actually in there. I did end up skipping him. But looking back through again at the price, for me, he just seems like one of the spiritual leaders at the club. I think he's extended. He's there for another couple of years. My main concern was, are they going to play him in the midfield? Could they play him as maybe, a bigger body type forward? But really, are they going to play him anywhere else? He's a beast. He leads the way in the midfield. He makes everyone else, I think, stand taller and walk taller when he's in the side, when he's right there in the crunch of it in the middle. What do you think, mate? Am I crazy for considering him at over 400K, or should I look at his age, the fact that he's had some major health scares and health problems, and just cross him off on the list for now? What's your opinion on Mr. Cunnington?
He's coming off 2 bouts of testicular cancer, which probably isn't the greatest thing. Speaking on his price, I was really hoping that he would be in that 300 mark as well. Maybe not 300, but around 350, that kind of thing. I think he was really hurt by the fact he only played 2 games last year, where I think the threshold for players going down in price by that magic, 20 to 30% is them actually playing 3 games, not 2 games. So he didn't go down by as much as kind of what you would expect, hence, 418K or whatever he is at the moment.
419. Yeah.
So currently he's not in my team. It's that really awkward, weird spot where we've talked about players being a cash cow and making money. You kind of have to expect him to score 100-ish to kind of be
a keeper. You're picking him at the keeper, Des.
Yeah,
exactly. So at the moment, for me, he's not there. Potentially, he could get back to that price or get back to that scoring level. But for me, at the moment, it's kind of just not. There's other players. I'd rather spend 100K more and get Tom Mitchell, for example.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that, DR, I reckon. That's why he's on my team. That exact reason.
Really disappointing, the fact that he's priced where he's at, because I've just had him in all of my preseason plans, and due to his price, that's why I skipped him originally. So maybe someone that you could maybe go down to someone like a Fife if you're interested there, or go up to one of those premiums, even someone like a Rosie, because I've been flirting with Rosie out. So it doesn't really feel right, does it, with Cunnington over Rosie? Yeah. The other question I had here in regards to Cunnington was, do you think he can average 100 plus? If he can average 100 plus, I'd be happy to select him. Do you think he's capable of it, or is it just too much for risk, do you think, Big J, at this stage?
He might start off a little bit slower just because of not playing so much, but averaging 100 plus, if you look at, and we'll touch on this with why I think LDU is a good pick, but if you look at North Melbourne overall in SuperCoach, there isn't a lot of players who are averaging quite a lot, which in my head means that there's a lot of potential for players to jump up in the averages. And Cunnington kind of fits a role where, he's around the contested ball. He gets a lot of contested possessions and tackles, passes off with handballs, and, starts off scoring chains. So can he score 100? Yes. He might start off a little bit slower, but I definitely think he could easily be around that 100 mark. And you saw when he had his best form, back in 2019, 2020, that's what he was scoring as well. And it's not like he's got to share points with, if you look at a Carlton, for example, someone coming in, Walsh, Chera, Cripps, all these people. There's no one else really there scoring big numbers. So the ball and the scoring is definitely there for a Cunnington.
Excellent. Well, I think for now, after that little summary by you, Big J, out goes Mr. Cunnington for now. Get someone else in for him. I think maybe Darcy can. Maybe Darcy.
I'd rather pick a 5 for a hopper at 100 to 70K cheaper than a Cunnington, and potentially you've only got to make 100 to 150K off a 5 for him to be viable, which is basically close to what Cunnington's price is at the moment. So it's a bit of a toss up there, but I know what I'm doing.
Great advice, Big J. Now, onto the primos. We have 2 here. That we'd like to quickly discuss. The first bloke for me, was one of my favourite SuperCoach selections of the past, Mr. Aaron Hall. Absolutely love what he can produce when he is fit, when he is firing. But after only playing 11 games last year, I've absolutely scrapped him off my list. Someone I'm not even considering. Is he someone that we should be considering at what's his price? 538,000, Big J, or are you in the same boat as Spills and I, just crossing off your list due to that durability risk?
If he was 100K cheaper, I'd say yes. At the moment, I'm saying no. Durability risk, yes. seeing him at training, he looks a little bit off. People are saying he's a bit pudgy and he hasn't really, come into the preseason that fit. He's been running a lot of laps, not getting involved in the training as much at the moment. So I think it's a bit of a flight risk at that price. For 70k more, you can get Dawson. For 20 odd K less, you can get Dacos or a Redmond, someone like that. So, it's not last year where he'd come off big form, that kind of thing. At the moment, it's a big no for me in the back line.
And I think given the fact that he hasn't come back in the best shape, I don't think that's going to impress Clarko too much either. So he might be fighting his way to actually get in the side at all. The other one I've got here on the list, I don't know how you feel about this bloke as a breakout contender, Spills, is LDU. I know there's a bit of talk about him at the moment. I've been looking on Twitter with a few team reveals, and he's a name that has bobbed up quite often. Are people crazy for selecting him at around 550k, or is this bloke genuinely ready to break out and become one of the more elite midfielders in the comp?
Every year in SuperCoach, there always seems to be a few players around this 550, 530 mark that end up being those really big, explosive, high-scoring players. So last year we saw with Brayshaw at a similar price. Some people started him, some people didn't. But by halfway through the season, a lot more people brought him in just from the scoring. I really feel like LDU's at that point and at that age where this is the year for him to break out. I've seen him in preseason. We've obviously seen him, at the last few games of last year, and he's doing really well. He looks fit. There's definitely a role for him on the field. You just have to be one of those people that can take, a leap of faith and say, yes, I want him in my side, because it could end up being that majority of people finish with him in their teams if he can keep up this scoring. So do you take the gamble? A trade isn't worth that much come round 3. If he stinks for the first 2 games, you've got some cash in the bank, you can swap him out. But I think there's definitely potential there. Is he in my team at the moment? No, because I've decided to go a Jack Steele for a little bit more expensive. But if I was gutsy and you want to be someone different, definitely pick up the LDU.
Excellent. And he does have a little bit of competition around the price as well with Matich, who are saving a little bit of money on if you go someone like him. There are blokes with, I suppose, a few more runs on the board at around the same price. So I suppose, as you said, it's a matter of how lucky do you feel? Do you feel lucky with LDU? But look, I hope the young fella does have a ripper season, and North Melbourne as a whole have a great season, Big J, as I'm sure you are. They're the 2 premiums that we had on the list. Are there any others that you think we may have missed? Any gems up the sleeve there that you don't think anyone's talking about?
Well, we've talked about Will Phillips. We've talked about Sheasel and Taryn Thomas. I wouldn't be picking a Goldstein anymore. I think he's probably done the years of him being a solid, R3 or best 4 in Ruckman, I think, are kind of gone now. They're probably the picks that are the ones to go. Speaking about LDU, just finishing off there is definitely potential for him to nab up a lot of the scoring points, similar to a Cunnington. So he could have a monster year because there's no one else he's really sharing the points with at the club. So similar to what we see at Tuke Miller, how he goes massive and then everyone else kind of scores maybe 80s, 90s, a couple of 100s. I think LDU's really got the potential to do that if he has those big games. And we've seen
Jez, sorry to cut you off, but what's LDU's boys like by foot? Because he averaged really high, he began at 38 disposals, but only really scoring 110, 120. So does he butcher it?
It's not so much butchering it. He's one of those players that will run, kick goals, and then not lowers the eye, but kind of looks where he's kicking when he's running. So that ball movement's really good. I think I would attribute the low scoring more to how bad our forward line has been. And if you're kicking it to nobody, you're not going to score as well. So as that gets better, as they actually get some form of coaching instead of, a person who's never coached before, he's definitely going to improve that way. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah.
Right, so round 1 next year, before the first bounce, who's in your starting midfield? Who are the blokes that you see there lining up round 1 before the first big bounce?
Goldstein, LDU, probably Simkin. Let's go with Cunnington. I reckon we'll get then we've got 2 guys on the end. So let's go with Taryn Thomas and probably maybe a Curtis Taylor or someone on the other side of the wing.
Well, it seems like a pretty exciting list. And given the fact that you've got players like Wardlaw, who you haven't mentioned there, Will Phillips, who's another bloke that can go in there, still really, really young. Some exciting times ahead, I think, Big J. There may be a little bit of short-term pain. The same with the Lions. We had a bit of long-term pain there for almost a couple of decades there. But I think if you get the right people in off the field for a start, that's really crucial for any sort of future success. So the fact that you've got Clarko that's come along there, he's brought his band of merry men along with him as well. I think, the players are going to really want to play for this man, and he's going to instill some elite, I suppose, morals into them, ways that they're going to go around their training. He's the ultimate professional. So I'm really excited for the Roos. How are you feeling about going in to the season just before we let you go about North Melbourne's prospects, mate?
I've said it before, but it feels a little bit like when Clarko's come. You know, Moses, when he parts the Red Sea, that's kind of what North Melbourne is at the moment with Clarko. He's come in. We can actually see a future. We can kind of see what's happening. And just the people he's kind of brought in. A lot of them, there've been talks on now where with the Hawthorn Kangaroos, with the coaching staff that he's kind of brought in. But I think whenever you've got a new coach at a team, Fagan, that was his first year that he's come in. You bring the coaching and you bring the staff that you know and you can work with and you have worked with before. And I think that's what Clarko's kind of done. So, we've got a new ruck coach. We've got a new forwards line coach, that kind of thing. But they've also brought elite training and elite premiership standards in as well. So I don't know if you just saw, but now we've got Josh Gibson coming in as well. As well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another coach who's had premiership success. We've got Ratton, who's been a really good coach as well. Clarko's coached 4. Monkhost has coached quite a few as well. Todd Viney's in there as well. Helped build up Hawthorn and then Melbourne as well. So the standards there at the club are really good. It's just kind of...
Even the players, like bringing Shields, for example. He's someone that's got those elite standards as well, and certainly past his best, as like a Birchall and a Hodge when they came up to the Lions. But I think bringing in players like that really will drive the standards for some of the young blokes that we've had a chat about today, Big J. But look, mate, I think we'll let you go there. I know that you're a very, very busy man. We really appreciate you coming onto the channel, mate. We know that obviously we can catch you on YouTube as well. What have you got coming up yourself, Big J, in regards to your own content, mate?
So we're just basically halfway through our 2022 team reviews. And then we're going to be starting up a lot on the SuperCoach as well. So probably putting out a team, first team for December in the next couple of days, and then smashing out everything with there. Kind of talking about some different problems and some opportunities in SuperCoach this year that we really haven't had.
Just to cap it off, Jez, how many North Melbourne players in your team currently, and how many are looking to start?
Okay. So looking at my team at the moment,
sneak preview here.
Just North Melbourne players. How many?
1, 2, 3.
3. So I'm looking at one, maybe 2. I think after this video, I'm flirting with Taryn Thomas, but other than that, like sort of locking in Phillips. So maybe 2 come next year.
So I've got Phillips, Thomas, and then Combat on the bench at the moment. I think forward lines in general, just kind of a bit of SuperCoach talk before we finish off. Forward lines are really tough to pick good rookies in. So you really just want your rookies on the bench and then fill out that forward line with mid-prices. So if I've got a rookie who I think it can really play for that 23 weeks, whatever, they're going to be locked in there. And I think Common's that player. Barring injuries, he should play every week.
Yep. How many do you have, Dara, in your North Melbourne players?
2 currently.
2 currently. Yeah.
So it's Phillips, obviously in the midfield there, along with Cunnington. But I think what I'll look to do now is go Cunnington down to a Thomas, or either try to get Cunnington back up to a Rosie, who I've taken out temporarily. But that's why it's going to be great having people like Big J coming onto the channel who actually have great knowledge about their own clubs and know things, that we would have no idea about. The fact that Big J's been down to training, that's fantastic just to get a few extra insights, mate. And great to see that you've been so involved in their pre-season. They'll be definitely hitting you up on Twitter for some North Melbourne news during the pre-season. Where can we find you on Twitter as well, in case anyone wants to reach out to any of your socials, mate?
Yeah. So you can find me at Bounce Centre on Twitter, and then at the Centre Bounce on YouTube.
Beautiful. Make sure we link that in the description as well. Yeah. Well, mate, we're done.
Done dusted.
First one done and dusted.
And there'll be plenty more coming, more guests. I think we got. I mean, if you guys check out Port Adelaide YouTube, you know the pair. I think he's going to be jumping on for our Port Adelaide review. Clearly we're going to get George on for the Adelaide one, and Ben from Insider from Brisbane, and etc. So JD for Essendon. So we're going to do every single club, maybe bar Gold Coast and GWS.
No, actually, on that, I found someone. It's not a supporter, but we're going to get the blokes from SuperCoach Edge. Come on,
that's good
Gold
enough.
Coast. So they're very knowledgeable, great blokes.
Beautiful.
I just could not for the life of me find a Gold Coast supporter. West Coast is the other one. West Coast is the other one that I still have not locked in. So if there's any West Coast supporters watching here that love your SuperCoach,
send us a message.
Please hit us up.
Yeah.
Hit us up
DM.
because we are struggling big time for West Coast. But
good
apart from that, we're looking pretty good.
If you want to change clubs, you're going to get a lot of fans who are just going to watch you exclusively. So
that's
pretty good.
All right, well, Big J, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Much appreciated. Looking forward to your pre-season and in-season content as well. Hope the Roos go well, and all the best, mate. Great to see you.
Great stuff.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been really good.
Good on you, mate. Cheers, buddy.
See ya. Bye.